Hello, everybody. Welcome to Manga Mondays, a show where I talk about manga on Mondays, and also now a show where I am terrified of he right strikes from my ongoing rivalry with the he right devil. And today I have a new weekly Shonen Jump title for you, Ichi the Witch by Osamu Nishi and Shiro Usazaki. Magic is alive and well in the world, inside beings known as magics. Okay. By completing a magic's trial, a witch can gain its power. However, only women can become witches or use magical items. All that changes one day when a young man named Ichi turns the world on its head by defeating an infamous magic and gaining its magical powers. Ichi is a reclusive hunter who knows nothing of witches and magics, but he does have a particular obsession for hunting anything that exudes bloodlust. When that instinct leads him to interfere in a battle between the Great Witch Discaris and the horrifying King Magic Uroro, against all odds he acquires the destructive magic of Uroro, making him the only male witch in the entire world. And not even Discaris herself is prepared for the absolute headache that wild child Ichi is about to give her. Well, Ichi the Witch. Ichi, as in the Japanese word for one. One witch, Ichi witch, the first witch. First witch, the first male witch. Strawberry. Rice. Anyway, back to the point. That premise. Sound interesting to you?
Well, it sounds interesting to me. I want to read fantasy manga. It sounds like it.
If it sounds interesting to you, you clearly haven't read enough manga then. Ichi the Witch, of course, caught my eye because it's a new weekly Shonen Jump title and it was illustrated by the artist of Act Age. If you're unfamiliar with the Act Age situation, I really don't want to get into it here. You can look it up on your own. In short, though, I just don't think Usazaki, the artist, deserved to have the series canceled because of the writer's horrible actions. And I felt really bad for her at the time because it was her first long-running series. She's back, though, with Ichi the Witch, so of course I had to give it a shot. And, don't get me wrong, it's perfectly fine. We have a totally serviceable setup. Long ago, magics, creatures imbued with magical power, very creative, just suddenly appeared and became enemies to humankind. Women with the power to defeat them and take on their powers, of course, became witches. And Ichi, the first male to defeat a magic, conveniently becomes the first male witch. See this little pot? Oh yeah, I have a perfect little witch's brew in here. Smells kind of like the formula for a successful, long-running fantasy action shonen that will be 70 volumes and have a happy ending. Now, I do have a little bit of praise for the manga before I'm going to get into why I've been so dismissive. 1. It seems, so far, to have pretty good comedic timing. 2. Ichi's power is simple. He just amplifies the effects of other spells. A lot. And that will come in handy for humor as well as starting and resolving conflicts. So as something to carry a story for as long as I think it will go, it's a perfectly solid idea, no ifs, ands, or buts. And finally, my third bit of praise would be the all-female cast, except for Ichi, of course. Now, an all-female cast and one male lead in a manga might be ringing some alarm bells. But I feel like this is a great opportunity to flesh out that concept outside of the harem genre. So when we take it that way, the concept of a male character being the standout in a female-dominated field will make for an interesting inversion of the typical trope. That said, a lot of everything else Ichi the Witch has to offer can be found in better manga elsewhere. I felt like the hunting aspect of the story sort of resembled the failed shonen manga The Hunter's Guild Red Hood in more than just a superficial aspect. It's baked into the story's very themes. And of course, being in a wide-open fantasy world full of witches brings to mind works like Witch Hat Atelier, but that is a manga of quite a lot of class, whereas Ichi the Witch felt a bit more pulpy. Way more by the numbers, not entirely unique or original or even that interesting. And I know that there's way more witch manga than just Witch Hat Atelier, but I'm using that as an example of something that's really popular that a lot of manga readers know that they can probably get a bit more out of than this title we're talking about now. Like, witch manga these days are just totally a dime a dozen. They're definitely an ongoing trend in the demographic the same way spies and assassins are. So to me, all of that just makes Ichi the Witch kind of a tough sell. It's not really a standout. And I don't really see a lot hot off the end of Volume 1 that would imply it's going to get really that much better. Now, I will say the art is perfectly fine. The page layout is a little busy, and I can't sing too many praises because in general, it's kind of got the somewhat Horikoshi, kind of sort of Black Clover, big eye, rounded triangle face style that I feel will be just as dated in 10 years as something like Love Hina is now. If it's for you, it's for you, but if not, it's not. And whenever there's a new flagship weekly Shonen Jump title, I'm always like, ooh! And I think it's Bakuman that programmed me to be like that. Because that title set in me this appreciation not just for the medium, but for the largest magazine in the medium. However, oftentimes these days, the longer I've stuck around with a weekly Shonen Jump title, the more I'm disappointed. I can kind of sniff out that down the road, Ichi the Witch, in comparison to those titles there, probably just won't be that much different. I may be wrong, and if I am, I encourage you to tell me down in the comments of this video, or future videos, or my DMs. But either way, I do think I can say that Ichi the Witch is a tentative skip for now. Not distastefully, I don't hate it, but I did take a few breaks reading through this first volume because I got a little bored. That's all I've really got to say. Thanks for watching. If you could like, comment, and subscribe, that'd be fantastic. I do also have a PSA. Please don't bully manga artists. They are probably already overworked and idle enough as it is, and please don't ship them with real people.
Or anything else.
Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. The One Piece is real, and nah, I'd win.